to the United stand on today's show. Alejandro Garnacho out to PSG or Atletico Madrid. Two different reports coming in. And Nuno Mendes, the left back, coming in for Manchester United in a £50 million deal. PSG demanding £50 million for Nuno Mendes. I would say absolutely no chance, especially considering his contract situation. We'll get into all of them details. But Alejandro Garnacho, I mean, we know the brief yesterday in terms of Kobbie Mainoo, Alejandro Garnacho, Rasmus Højlund. They're not off the table. If clubs do come in with bids for them, Ineos, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, Manchester United would consider it. Well, there's been a lot of murmurs about Garnacho being sold by Manchester United and Ruben Amorim being okay with that, not seeing much game time at the moment. More reports coming out that clubs are interested. Should Manchester United cash in? And would you swap him for Nuno Mendes? Get voting in the poll. Also, Marcus Rashford, Tottenham Hotspur, interested in signing Marcus Rashford on loan. Would that be a good move for him? Would you want to see him go in the Premier League? And some breaking news as well. He's training away from the current Manchester United squad. There's reasons to that. Do we believe them reasons? We'll get into that as well. And Amad Diallo is very close to signing a new contract at Manchester United. Thank the Lord, because honestly, I would be absolutely devastated if we lost Amad. But he's very, very close to signing a new contract and he is considered untouchable. We'll get into all the other news as well. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Get your comments in, get your super chats in, let us know how you're feeling and let's get into the news. So let's start off with the first bit of news. And one thing I will say, that this January transfer window so far, it's been very turbulent. There's been a lot of news, there's been a lot of shows already. I mean, yesterday I had a lot of things to do, but I was seeing Mark was live literally every hour, Kobbie Mainoo, all that stuff. I was like, hang on a second. Let me tune in here, because when I seen Kobbie Mainoo could have been getting sold, honestly, I nearly choked. Like, it was I can't speak moment. But anyway, I don't think Kobbie Mainoo's going to get sold. That's a different story. But there's a lot of conflicting reports coming out at the moment for Manchester United. But one thing that remains consistent is Alejandro Garnacho keeps getting linked away from Manchester United. And Manchester United keep getting put into stories that they have to sell for financial fair play, and they're open to sell for financial fair play. Now, I don't think that Kobbie Mainoo is going to get sold from Manchester United. I don't see a reason why he would. I think he's definitely going to stay. Alejandro Garnacho, on the other hand, he's not at the centre of Ruben Amorim's project. He's not getting much game time. He doesn't have a defined position in that system. He's a left winger that doesn't really play as a 10 because he doesn't look after the ball well enough and isn't defensive enough to play a wing back. And there has been news previously that Ruben Amorim would be open to letting him go. Also, Manchester United need to make money through FFP. He's homegrown, it's pure profit. Them two things kind of, 2 plus 2 is 4. 2 plus 2 is Matic. You know what I mean? Like, it kind of adds up that Alejandro Garnacho might be on his way out of Manchester United. Whether I think he should be or not, we'll get into that. He's only young. Obviously, he's got time to develop. And I thought one turning point for him was actually that Liverpool game. His cameo was really good when he came on. But the news is coming out that Manchester United need a sale in order to meet PSG's £50 million valuation of Nuno Mendes and the player's salary. Alejandro Garnacho has come up in talks between Manchester United and PSG. If there was some kind of swap deal with Nuno Mendes and Alejandro Garnacho, I do think that PSG would be getting the better deal in that situation. I understand the method behind it. You're getting a left wing back in for a left winger. A lot of people say, if Marcus Rashford goes, if Alejandro Garnacho goes, we've got to go and get this guy, we've got to go and get this guy. And often they're looking at attacking players. We need wing backs. Marcus Rashford's a left winger, Alejandro Garnacho's a left winger. We need a left wing back. So if one of them goes, okay, yeah, we need to address the striker situation. We probably do need a left-sided forward in terms of a left-sided 10. But at the moment, you've got Bruno Fernandes, you've got Ahmad, you've got players for them positions. What we desperately need is a left wing-back. So that's what we'd be looking at. Nuno Mendes does seem to be high up on a lot of people's lists. And don't get me wrong, I would love for Nuno Mendes to come into Manchester United. But PSG would be getting the better deal. The reason why they'd be getting the better deal is because Nuno Mendes is out of contract in 2026. The contract talks have stalled. They're not seeming to come to an agreement on it. It looks like he might run his contract down at this moment in time. So considering Alejandro Garnacho is on a contract with Manchester United, I think he's got 2 years left on his deal. And He's a young talent that has broken through at Manchester United, had some really good performances. Okay, yeah, it's been a little bit turbulent for him, but he's got a lot of future ahead of him. He's tied down to a contract. I do think that PSG would be getting the better deal on that. However, it's not set in stone, obviously, that would be a swap deal. But it's interesting that he's coming up in conversations, and it's more than just one club that's interested in Alejandro Garnacho. Now, this won't happen in January, I don't think. The reason it won't happen in January, because that was a report, as I say, conflicting reports from different outlets. That was a report from The Independent by Miguel Delaney, that the conversation of Alejandro Garnacho going to PSG with Nuno Mendes coming to Manchester United, £50 million deal, that has been talked about between Manchester United and PSG in negotiations, because Manchester United, it's no secret, they want Nuno Mendes. Amorim's worked with him before. PSG obviously like Alejandro Garnacho. And by the way, I know Mark was talking about saying that he thinks Rashford would be a great signing for PSG and he'd do really well in that league. I think Alejandro Garnacho would do fantastically well in that league. With his pace, his flair, I think he'd do fantastically well in the French league. I think he'd stat pad ridiculously, and I think he'd do really well for PSG. I'm not saying to do the deal. We'd have to negotiate something better. If Ruben Amorim wants Garnacho to leave, you do have to look at different routes for that to happen. It's not player FC, it's what the manager wants, and he doesn't seem to have a place in this Ruben Amorim team as of now. He is making more of an impact as a substitute, though, and he did that in that Liverpool game. So let's see how that happens. I don't think we should go too early on Alejandro Garnacho. But as I say, there's a lot of conflicting reports. And it's come out from the French outlet the French outlet Foot Mercato. I might be butchering that name, but I've looked at this French outlet. They do a lot of stuff surrounding PSG and the French league, and they've said Manchester United will not try to persuade PSG to part ways with Nuno Mendes in January, although they will try for a move in the summer, particularly if his contract talks remain in deadlock. Nuno Mendes is very keen to reunite with Ruben Amorim at Manchester United. PSG plan to continue discussions with the defender between now and the summer transfer window for a contract extension. The French outlet notes that Paris Saint-Germain's fullback is not satisfied with his current salary conditions and is only under contract until 2026. As reported previously, his contract negotiations with PSG hit a standstill in December. So in terms of the swap with Garnacho and Nuno Mendes, the main reason I don't think it'll happen is because it'd be silly for Manchester United to give away one of our crown jewels, as in Alejandro Garnacho, for a player that is in deadlock contract talks and his contract expires in 2026. It doesn't make sense. However, there is definitely something in Alejandro Garnacho leaving Manchester United. I do think that. He's currently a bit part player under Ruben Amorim. I've heard that Ruben Amorim didn't see where Garnacho and Rashford were going to fit into his system. Garnacho's obviously going to want game time. The only way that I think Alejandro Garnacho doesn't leave Manchester United is if somehow between now and the end of the season he gets himself into that Manchester United team. Some way or another. I don't know how it's going to happen though, because I don't think he's going to leave in January. I do think it's one to watch for the summer, Alejandro Garnacho. His substitute appearances haven't been that good. He's not been able to get into the team under Ruben Amorim after he lost his place. However, against Liverpool, there was a stark difference. He wasn't taking any outlandish shots. He was holding his position really well. He was fighting for the ball. He was doing his defensive work well. He held his own. He made some good passes into Dalot. He made a good cross for the Ahmad goal. He was playing unselfishly and there was a difference in his game. That is coaching throughout the week by Ruben Amorim. So if he can build on that at 20 years of age between now and the end of the season and get himself to be an important member of that team, whether it be, 20 minutes off the bench, he's really making an impact. He's knocking on the door for a start, or he manages to start a game and impress. That's the only way I don't see Alejandro Garnacho leaving Manchester United, because Man United, we know that Sir Jim and Ineos want to make money for FFP to bring players in, and we know currently Alejandro Garnacho probably isn't going to be happy with 10 minutes off the bench every game, 20 minutes off the bench every game. He wants to be probably a starter for a team. And Ruben Amorim if Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos are saying, look, we want to go and get you a number 10, we want to go and get you a left wing back, we want to go and get you a striker, but we need money, who don't you see being part of your starting 11 at this current moment in time, and Ruben Amorim names Garnacho because he's currently not, that could be a deal that gets done. And I think it's very likely that Garnacho could leave Manchester United unless things change between now and the summer. Like I said, I don't think he will go in January, and I don't think we'll get Nuno Mendes in January. It's interesting though, because Manchester United desperately need a left wing back, and it seems like Nuno Mendes is up there on the list. The question to you is, would you wait for the summer to get Nuno Mendes? It's like we've said before, we could try and go for a striker now, but if we wait till the summer, for the same price, you could get Gyökeres, who we know's worked with Amorim, we know is been a fantastically performing striker under Amorim. Do you wait? It's like Nuno Mendes, probably not going to get him in January, probably going to have to wait till the summer. Do you go for a left wing back now, or do you wait for Nuno Mendes, who has played under Ruben Amorim before, is a Portuguese international, is a very good player? Do you wait for that in the summer? Get in your comments down below and let me know what you think. We've got Patrick Lynch saying, I find it very difficult to see us doing any major permanent signings this window given our financial situation. Swap deals are very difficult too. And I think Patrick makes a good point, exactly what I was just saying. I think Manchester United this window, it's like, do we go for someone as a stopgap? Or do we just wait and hold out till the summer? Because you could go and buy a left wing back and go and buy a striker now, and then you're using up funds for the summer. They're not quite good enough. You get to summer and you think, oh, if we waited, we could have had Nuno Mendes and we could have had Gyökeres. But now we've ended up with this player and it's not really good enough. So it's whether Manchester United take that risk. Of course, as a Man United fan, I think we should be looking in the window. I think we should be looking to improve our squad. But I would much rather be patient and wait for the right option than rush into something that doesn't work in the long run and hinders our chances at getting a player that is actually worth it. I honestly see Manchester United's transfer window in January being probably a Kolo Muani loan, if that. That's what I see it being. And it's mad to think we might not even go for a wing back this January. See, I'm really stuck between a rock and a hard place, because it's like we need a wing back this January, but at the same time, I don't want to rush and get somebody who isn't good enough. If we're getting a wing back, I want to get someone who is starting under Ruben Amorim and is our future. You know, he is going to be our starting left wing back. That's what I want to get. So it's where you go in that. I know we've been linked to quite a few players. A lot of them are really hard to go and get at this moment in time. It's interesting. Get in the chat what you would want to do with that. But this is where Manchester United scouts have to come through. And is there a cheaper option that we can get? Is there a player that we can get in now that is good enough to start, but also we can go again in the summer because we've not spent that much money, and you can kind of have that competitive nature between who we get now and who we buy in the summer? Is there someone out there that we can do a deal like that with, where you're not spending much money, but you've got a really good prospect in for that left wing back position? And then in the summer, you go and buy, you know, the Nuno Mendes, who's going to be the senior left wing back. But then you've got that understudy that is also pushing for a spot as well. Because, like I said, it should never just be one player for one spot. There should always be a competitive nature between a couple of players in the squad for each space. I think there should always be somebody on your toes, and you're looking behind you thinking, I've got to perform because they're ready to come and take my spot in the team. There should always be competition for places. I'm already seeing people putting Alvaro Fernandez in the chat. I don't see this happening. I see him getting linked to Manchester United consistently because we have a release clause because he's played for us before. But I think if Man United really wanted to do that deal, we'd be already all over it, and there'd be a lot of news coming out about this. I don't see us getting Fernandez back, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. But on Alejandro Garnacho and the Nuno Mendes deal, so not only are PSG bringing up Alejandro Garnacho in conversations to Manchester United, and Ineos are briefing outlets that certain players, they're not off limits. To me, by the way, that, and I've not had time to speak on this because I wasn't in yesterday and I wasn't on the shows, but to me, the David Ornstein Kobbie Mainoo and Alejandro Garnacho, Ineos are not actively looking to sell them, but if they receive a big offer, they will consider it and no one's unsellable. I don't think David Ornstein just randomly puts that out off the back of, you know, some news surrounding Kobbie Mainoo and Alejandro Garnacho. I don't think he does. David Ornstein is very particular in the news he puts out there, and you know if he's saying something, it's 100% true and 100% a fact. I feel like all the news yesterday about Alejandro Garnacho and Kobbie Mainoo are not completely unsellable. We don't want to sell them, but if an offer comes in, we will consider it. To me, that's basically Man United putting it out there saying, you know, if you have a bid, you might get it accepted. Come and have a bid. That's how it felt. I think more towards Alejandro Garnacho because he's not at the centre of the Amorim project, and I can see Amorim being okay with him potentially being sold if it means he can invest it into his transfer fund to bring players in that suit his system. Kobbie Mainoo, I can't see it happening in a million years because he's at the centre of the project, he's starting in midfield, he's building that partnership with Ugarte. I just don't see it. But that's how I took it. I just don't think that goes out there for no reason. It's like, you know, I don't understand why you'd put that out unless you wanted a club to come in and have a bid. It was a weird one. But as I said, it wasn't the only club that is talking about Alejandro Garnacho because Garnacho has consistently been linked back to his previous club, Atletico Madrid. And it came out from Alex Crook at TalkSport that Atletico Madrid are keeping tabs on Manchester United winger Alejandro Garnacho. United would consider a sale if a big money offer comes in. Again, United would consider a sale if a big money offer come in. That to me says, come and have a go. Come and have a bid. It might be big enough for us to be like, you know what, yeah, we'll cash in on him. So Atletico Madrid's a really interesting one in terms of they know Alejandro Garnacho already. We obviously bought him from the Atletico Madrid academy. Alejandro Garnacho has been linked to Spain before. I think it's one to watch. And Sam C reports from the United stand as well, also put in our group chat, Atletico Madrid and Alejandro Garnacho is definitely one to watch. So there's no smoke without fire. There's something in that. And let's just see whether Alejandro Garnacho can revive his Manchester United career from now until the end of the season. Because he's got to impress Ruben Amorim enough to get himself into that team. I'm sure Alejandro Garnacho wants to stay. I'm sure the majority of the fans want to see Alejandro Garnacho succeed at Manchester United. I do. Even though I don't see how he fits the system, I would love to see him succeed. Because he's, you know, we've brought him through the academy. He's a young player that's played in some big games and come through for us in some of our lowest points as well. I genuinely do believe that, you know, he wants the best for Manchester United. He is willing to learn and willing to develop. It's just whether he can do it. Because my heart says, I want to keep Garnacho. I want him to be successful. My head says, I don't see him I don't see him starting in an Amorim team at Manchester United as a left-sided 10 or a left wing-back at this current moment in time. I don't see how he fits. I don't see how he's good enough to start. I see him having 20, 30 minutes off the bench and impacting a game like he did against Liverpool, but I don't see how he turns that into being a starter. I hope that he proves me wrong. Like I said, my heart would want to keep him. But from now until the summer, he's going to have to get a wiggle on in terms of getting himself into that team, because I do think in the summer, Ineos will seriously consider cashing in on Alejandro Garnacho if he's not a firm part of Ruben Amorim's plans. And as well, you know, with the money that you get from Garnacho, which is, well, Patrick Lynch brought up how swap deals are difficult. I don't think we would swap with Nuno Mendes. I think it'd be, you know, separate purchases if that did happen. If he went to Atletico Madrid, obviously it'd just be a straight purchase. I don't see any Rashford swap deal happening. That's been brought up in the past as well, because these players, because they're homegrown, it's pure profit. FFP wise, swap deal doesn't really work the best for Manchester United. But if Alejandro Garnacho does go and we do get, say, £60 million for him, which was what was rumoured from Atletico Madrid, £60 million, say 50, 60 million, that's pure profit that you can then invest. You could go for Acuna, you know, you could go for a left wing back. You could go for someone that really does suit the Amorim system. So it's definitely something to consider. Would you swap Mendes for Garnacho? Get your votes in the poll. And if someone could let me know what that poll was in, that would be great. So it's 57% of you guys say no. So again, it's quite close. I wouldn't do a straight up swap for Mendes and Garnacho. I think that would be a silly deal. But I would be open to selling Garnacho if he doesn't get into this Ruben Amorim side. That's where I'm at. I feel like I've made that clear throughout the show. I'm definitely not opposed to selling if he can't get into the Amorim side. Because for me, whether we like players, whether we don't like players, all I'm about, does Ruben Amorim like the player and does Ruben Amorim seem fitting? That's what I'm about. That's where I'm at this current moment in time. Are they working for Ruben Amorim, and what does Ruben Amorim want? Whatever he wants, let's go with it, because he's the guy that we're trusting to turn around this football club. Anyway, let's move on to some Marcus Rashford news. So, Rashford to Spurs, by the way, I actually think that could be a really good deal for them if there is any movement in it. But before we get on to Rashford for Spurs, let's talk about the breaking news coming in from Sky Sports. And it's breaking news that Marcus Rashford was not with the Manchester United squad on Wednesday and will instead train individually as he recovers from the illness that kept him out of the draw at Liverpool on Sunday. So Marcus Rashford is training separately to the current Manchester United squad. Now, my interpretation of this is I don't think Marcus Rashford is training separately just because he was ill. I find it very hard to believe, especially when there was a lot of rumours that the illness that kept him out of the Liverpool game was maybe a cover-up for another reason why. Again, I have no knowledge of this. I have no source on this. It's just my interpretation. It seemed weird that after he's kept out of the squad for 5 games, he came back in when we were desperate to make up numbers because Ugarte and Bruno were suspended, warmed up like 3 times, never came on, and then he's ill again to keep him out of the Liverpool game. It all seemed very weird to me. And now he's training separately whilst his agents are in Italy, probably stopping off in Germany as well to speak to Borussia Dortmund, trying to navigate him a move out of Manchester United. Ruben Amorim's, had talks publicly in press conferences how he would have handled the interview differently if he was Marcus Rashford when he said he wanted a new challenge, etc., etc. This saga just keeps spiralling and having so many different tangents to it. Apparently he's training separately from the squad because he's ill. To me, it translates to maybe Ruben Amorim doesn't want him training with the squad. He wants to keep it separate due to the fact that Marcus Rashford is probably on his way out of Manchester United and he just wants to focus on the players that are committed to playing for Manchester United and are going to be part of his squad and teams in the upcoming weeks. I don't think he wants the energy to be combined between the two different parties. I don't know. That's just my interpretation. It's like we're not in COVID, are we? We're not in COVID. It's not as if it's 2020 and we're having to do separation rules because he's had COVID. If he's well enough to train, surely he's well enough to train with the team. If he was ill, he's training. So he's better. If he was still ill, he wouldn't be training. That's why it doesn't make sense to me. If he's well enough to go out onto Carrington pitch and train, surely he's well enough to train with the team. It just doesn't make sense. It just seems like a bit of a cover-up on Manchester United's part, which, honestly, if you're trying to sell a player / work out a deal for them to exit the club, then maybe it's just trying to kind of smooth over that image from Manchester United. Because when you're trying to negotiate with another club, if they're saying, well, he's training separately away from the manager and the squad, he's not part of the squad, there's clearly a breakdown in relationship between Amorim and Rashford, they're going to lowball you the offer. They're going to lowball what they're going to offer you. Manchester United want to get the best possible outcome for both the player and themselves financially, and in terms of, the move that Marcus Rashford will get. So I think it's a little bit of a cover up, that one. But in terms of where Marcus Rashford might go, we already know that AC Milan are seriously interested in Marcus Rashford. I think that would be a great move for him, going to be honest. I think his agents are and his entourage are in Italy now, discussing with AC Milan, actually, from the news that we heard. We know Borussia Dortmund are looking into the situation as well. Borussia Dortmund love to come into Manchester United and pick up a winger that isn't having the best time, don't they? They've done it with Sancho. They might do it with Marcus Rashford. Whether they can offer us, a good enough deal that'll show as more news keeps coming out. By the way, Borussia Dortmund have had a good run out of Manchester United, haven't they? First of all, they get 72 million for Jadon Sancho, then they get him back on loan and we're paying his wages. And now they might be getting Marcus Rashford on a loan. They've loved it. They've loved it, Borussia Dortmund. But we need to, this is such a tangent, but we need to make sure we're a club that isn't doing that in the future. We can't have Borussia Dortmund, fleecing us for 70 odd million and then having players back and us paying their wages and then getting another player on a loan that's worth quite a bit of money, like Marcus Rashford, because we've given him a massive contract. We need to get our wage bill in order. We need to get our wage structure in order, and we need to ensure that we're not giving out stupid contracts where we can't sell players and clubs are then knocking on the door saying we'll pay half his wage and we'll take him on loan. It just makes us look silly. And we've got to do it now because of the situation we're in, but our wage structure needs to be sorted out. And say if Casemiro and Rashford depart and then the highest earner is Bruno Fernandes on 300 grand a week, that is where you get a hold of that, and no one earns above that at this moment in time. But yeah, anyway, so not only are them two clubs interested in Marcus Rashford, also it's come out from Chris Wheeler that Tottenham are among several European clubs who want to take Marcus Rashford on loan from Manchester United. They could face competition from Borussia Dortmund and AC Milan and Juventus and Galatasaray also holding interest. So it's weird, isn't it? Because a week ago or so, no clubs were interested in bidding for Rashford in terms of a sale. Now Manchester United have put out there that they're open to a loan. You've got AC Milan, you've got Borussia Dortmund, you've got Juventus, you've got Galatasaray, you've also got Tottenham Hotspur, and there's probably a couple of other clubs as well that we don't even know about. So there's a lot of interest now out there for Marcus Rashford in terms of a loan. This shows if we didn't give out stupid wages, we probably would have been able to sell Rashford. Because there's clubs interested in the player. They just can't afford the wage and the fee that we want from that. So there is clubs there wanting Marcus Rashford. Tottenham Hotspur, would you want to see him go to a Premier League club? I'm going to be honest, I'd rather him go to AC Milan, Dortmund or Juventus. I'd rather him not go to a competitor in the Premier League, especially considering right now in the Premier League, I think Spurs are actually just above us, I think. Let me just look at the Premier League table. We're in 13th on 23 points. Yeah, they're in 12th in 24 points. I was right. And I also think, Marcus Rashford goes to Spurs every single week. Ruben Amorim's getting asked about Marcus Rashford's performance for Tottenham at the weekend. Why is Ange managing to get this out of Rashford, but he wasn't able to do it in Manchester United? They're all the possibilities that open up from now until the rest of the season, and it just creates another saga. If he did go to Tottenham Hotspur, who are just above us in the Premier League, you're also letting him go to a competitor and strengthening them. I don't think that suits Manchester United. However, I do think Marcus Rashford would be successful in that Ange Postecoglou setup. I know they concede a lot of goals, but they score a lot of goals. There's a lot of space in behind in an Ange Postecoglou setup. I think Marcus Rashford would do really well in that. I mean, if he's getting a tune out of Brennan Johnson, I think Marcus Rashford would suit that system as well. So I have no doubt he'd probably do well in that system and score goals. Might be good for his confidence, might be good to get the transfer value up a bit. But also, if he does go there and does really well, you could also have it where it's like, everyone's like, he needs to play for Man United next season in the Premier League. Like, let's bring him back. And then it's a different setup to what Ange is using. And you think, oh, we should have just sold him. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. You can't predict the future. You can only imagine and kind of guess what's going to happen. But I ideally would would rather Manchester United do a deal with a club that isn't in the Premier League. But if Spurs is on the table and they offer us the best package, I think it's something to consider. But Ben Jacobs did put out a little bit later, no talks so far between Spurs and Marcus Rashford's camp. So far, there is interest, but there's no official talk. So AC Milan, Dortmund seem to be more of a priority at this moment in time than Tottenham Hotspur. You've got Pizza in saying, Beth, you seem scared if Marcus Rashford goes to Spurs. I'm not scared if Rashford goes to Spurs. I think, I've said my opinion, I think he'd do well in that setup. I think if Ange Postecoglou, you know, he's coaching a setup where Brennan Johnson is regularly scoring goals for them, I think Marcus Rashford could regularly score goals for them. In terms of creating an environment for Marcus Rashford to thrive, I think in that Ange Postecoglou team, it's very attacking. You have a lot of space in behind. You know, it relies on pacey players like, for example, Marcus Rashford. I know he's lost a yard of it, but he's still got that pace in behind. I think for Spurs, he could do really well. Spurs don't have trouble scoring goals. They have trouble, you know, keeping them out of their net in terms of other teams scoring in them. So I think he'd do well in that setup. They also have other players though. They have Timo Werner, they have Heung-min Son, you know, they have Solanke, they have Kulusevski. I think Kulusevski's a top player. Obviously Brennan Johnson, who's having a pretty good season as well. So he wouldn't just walk into the starting 11. But I do think he would do well. And do you want him improving a rival? I'm not scared, it's just like, I would rather not be paying some of his wages to improve a rival, because I doubt Spurs would cover the whole wage as well. I would rather him go to AC Milan. I would rather him go to Borussia Dortmund, where, again, Ruben Amorim will get asked about it. Of course he will. But it won't be in everybody's faces. It won't be in the media every single week. And we've got another saga with Rashford where Ruben Amorim, even though he's not at the club, Rashford's on loan at Spurs, he's consistently getting asked about this performance, that performance, and it just opens another can of worms. I'd rather have him abroad and let him have the fresh start away from the Premier League. Obviously, Marcus Rashford will have a say in where he ends up going, and he should have a say in where he ends up going at the end of the day. He's not out of contract. He's got a contract with Manchester United. He will have a say. But Manchester United also need to look at the best possible package financially for them and what would make us look less embarrassing and what would work for us the best. And I think him going and playing really well at AC Milan is very good for Manchester United. It increases his transfer value, and you know, it's not in the Premier League. It's not a direct competitor. Him going playing really well for Borussia Dortmund, it's a very good look for Manchester United. It increases his transfer value. They're not in direct competition with Manchester United. Him going playing really well for Spurs, they are in the Premier League. They are direct competition. And even though Marcus Rashford is cup tied, so he wouldn't be playing in the Europa League for them. They are in the Europa League as well. It's just too close to home, in my opinion. There was rumours that AC Milan want to actually permanently buy Rashford as well. At this moment in time, in the news, they seem the most interested in terms of the news that's come out. Apparently, they want to put in an obligation to buy in there, and they want him to be a permanent transfer. That is double thumbs up from me in terms of you've got a long-term solution there. So if AC Milan actually are serious about permanently taking Rashford, that's something we should really try and negotiate with, because Dortmund probably just want to get a cheap winger in after they're letting go of Donny Marlon to Aston Villa. Are they going to actually be able to purchase Rashford in the summer? They never purchased Sancho, even though they were waxing lyrical about him all around the socials, and, you know, we've always known his game. Well, you didn't go and buy him in the summer, did you? Chelsea did. So Borussia Dortmund might want him on the cheap, but they probably won't permanently buy him. AC Milan, if they're seriously interested in permanently buying Marcus Rashford, then it's definitely something to look into. Obviously, there's a chance he goes to any of them clubs and flops as well. There is that chance, because he's not been able to do it in Manchester United for quite a long time. So there is a chance he goes to them clubs and it doesn't work out for him, which, again, Manchester United, you run that risk. You're in a position in the summer where he's not done well. If you've not got an obligation to buy anywhere, the likelihood of clubs coming in to buy him is going to be very, very slim, and he's going to be hard to shift again. So there's all different avenues that Manchester United need to explore, and they have to try and get the best deal. I also think in terms of performance as well, maybe a different league might suit him. I mean, Scott McTominay's doing really well for Napoli in the Italian league. That's another one that it might give him a better chance of better performances, playing against different teams, playing in a bit of a slower league. It's something that Manchester United have to think about carefully. But at the end of the day, it's not like they've got a whole host of amazing options. We've got some okay options on the table, and you've got to pick the best one out of what's there for the club and the player. Last but not least, we've got a little bit of news on Amad. So it's coming from Plettigol, Sky Germany, that Amad Diallo is close to signing a new long-term contract with Manchester United. It shouldn't take much longer as negotiations are nearing completion. The 22-year-old winger has recorded 6 goals and 7 assists for Manchester United so far this season. He is untouchable and a key part of the club's future, and that is exactly what I want to hear. I also saw this stat that Manchester United put out on their socials, that Amad has 9 goals in his last 12 Premier League starts. So Amad, he's one of our only forward players at this moment that is flying and is doing the business. So tying him down to a contract is super, super important. As we've said on this channel multiple times before, I'm not worried. I think people who are worried about Amad signing a contract, it's just scaremongering. He was kissing the badge at Anfield. He's going to sign. Everybody out there saying he's going to sign. I saw a rumour before that it's going to be around 120 grand a week. It was just a rumour, so I don't know 100%. I was unsure to bring it into the show because I don't want to put out false information. But I've seen a rumour that it's going to be around 120 grand a week. And if it is 120 grand a week, I think that's an absolutely fantastic deal for Manchester United. He's going to be a key part of our player. It's going to be a key part of our project and our future under Ruben Amorim, and 120 grand a week, it's a good wage for Amad at his age, and it's also a good wage for Manchester United to keep in, to keep him with our wage structure and not give stupid, outlandish wages away. And even though Amad, is shining, he's doing fantastically well, you've got to do it for a long period of time, consistently. He's going to get that opportunity, and long may it continue. I think he will become a huge, huge part of this Ruben Amorim system. He already is. But 120 grand a week, I think, would be a fantastic deal for Manchester United for Amad. A lot of people saying 150 they're hearing. It might be around that mark. It's just rumours. It's interesting. I keep hearing a lot of comments on wages, and there's already you guys getting your comments in how much he should be getting paid. And there's some people in the chat saying that 120, 150 grand a week is still too much. No, it's not. It's definitely not for someone of Amad's quality that's starting in our team and providing what he's providing. At the end of the day, when you've got, I know we're changing our wage structure, but when you've got players like Mason Mount, Anthony on 200 grand a week, you've got Casemiro on 350 grand a week, and they're not playing, Luke Shaw on 190 grand a week, there is going to be players that are working their arses off every week and providing for the team, like Kobbie Mainoo and Amad, with new contracts, saying, hang on a second, I want to be paid fairly and I want to be valued. Now, I'm not saying go and give Amad and Mainoo, 250 grand a week after, a couple of good years. And for Amad, this is his first proper season in the team, starting. So I'm not saying that, don't jump ahead of things, but they should be given a wage that is a fair reflection of the effort and not just the effort, but the performance and their delivery as well. At the end of the day, Amad is starting for us regularly under the new manager. He's providing for us regularly. He needs a wage increase. I'm not saying make him the highest paid player. I'm not saying give him a stupid wage, but 120, 150 grand a week for what he's providing, I think is a pretty fair deal for Manchester United. I mean, if you look at it, Joshua Zirkzee is 105 grand a week. He's got to be more than him. Unless you're reaching 180, you're not breaking the bank in terms of what you're offering Amad. And it goes for Kobbie Mainoo as well. I've seen so many people speaking about the 200 grand a week rumour that came out yesterday. And my viewpoint on that is, he is the centre of our project. He has been one of our best performing players. in the last couple of seasons. Of course, he's got levels to go up. Of course, there's still improvements to be made. Of course, you know, you can't run away with it. But he deserves to have a pay increase that reflects his delivery. And he's another one where I think around 150 grand a week would be very fair for Kobbie Mainoo. I wouldn't put it right up to 200, but 150 grand a week, I think he's on 20 grand a week now, would be a big increase and show Kobbie Mainoo we are thankful for what you're giving us and we really believe in you and your talent. And because of that, we're giving you a huge wage increase. You're going from 20 to 150. And but in the Premier League, that still reflects as quite a fair wage for us in terms of Kobbie Mainoo, considering what other top talents get. So that's what I would go for in terms of Kobbie Mainoo. And see, I've seen people in the chat saying 150 grand a week. Are you mad in terms of Kobbie Mainoo? Do you want another club to go and get him? If you were to bring in a player now of Kobbie Mainoo's ability and his delivery, how much do you reckon that's going to cost Manchester United? How much do you think it'd cost them? Because you'd have to pay a massive transfer fee and you'd definitely be paying them more than 150 grand a week on wages. I think 150 grand a week for Kobbie Mainoo, yeah, it's high, but I don't think necessarily it should all be judged on age. It should be down to the value that you are bringing to the team and what you're worth to the team. It's like if you were in a job, right? If you're in a job and say you're 20 years old and there's someone doing your same job who's 30 years old, but the 30-year-old is on double what you're on and is putting in nowhere near the performance that you are. You're outperforming them in every single element. Do you deserve to get paid less just because you're younger? No. Like, you've got to pay him what he deserves and his value. And yeah, 150 grand a week is mental money. It's crazy. But if you look at the Premier League and what players are getting paid in terms of their ability, in terms of what they're delivering, you've got to look at everything. 200 grand a week's too much. I think 120 to 150 for both Ahmad and Kobbie Mainoo is where they're at right now, especially if you look at the wage bill of Manchester United players. I just want to quickly get this up. I do need to wrap up. I always go so over on this show, but time flies when you're having fun. Oh, it's just popped up that Deschamps will leave the France job after the World Cup in 2026. Zidane's probably going to go into that job after Deschamps, isn't he? Let me just get up this wage bill here for Manchester United, because I had it before and I thought it was really interesting for everyone saying, oh, you know what, Kobbie can do one then if he wants that wage. No, because another team will bring him in and will pay him fairly. So you've got Manchester United here. You've got Kobbie Mainoo currently on 20 grand a week. Ahmad currently on 28 grand a week. Mendes on 35 grand a week. Heaton's on 45 grand a week. Alejandro Garnacho's on 50 grand a week. Johnny Evans is on 65 grand a week. Malassia's on 75 grand a week. Rasmus is on 85 grand a week. Dalot, it's quite low for Dalot, is on 85 grand a week. Joshua Zirkzee is on 105 grand a week. Lenny Yoro's on 115 grand a week. Ugarte's on 120. But if you look at, like, for example, you look at Lindelof's on 120 grand a week. It's mental, isn't it? Luke Shaw, 150 grand a week. Christian Eriksen, 150 grand a week. Harry Maguire, 190 grand a week. De Ligt, 195 grand a week. Anthony, 200 grand a week. Mason Mount, 250 grand a week, which is mad. Rashford and Bruno, 300 grand a week. Casemiro, 350 grand a week. Looking at that, maybe 150 is a bit high, to be fair, to push up to Kobbie and Ahmad, considering Lisandro Martinez is on 120, you know, Ugarte's on 120, Mazraoui's on 135, maybe around 120 to 130 is what they should be going on in their next contracts. But if you look at what other players in the team are bringing and what they're getting paid, you've got to pay him fairly. You've got Cunha is currently on 60 grand a week. Well, he's getting a new contract, isn't he? He's getting a new contract with Wolves, where he might be getting paid a little bit more, but there will be a release clause in there. Also, don't you think it's mad? Like, Tom Heaton and Bayindir are getting paid more than Kobbie Mainoo and Ahmad. I know they're younger and they've had to break into the team and and prove, you know, their worth to the team. But now they're in there and they're consistently in starting 11s. Their pay does need to reflect that. But look, everyone, thank you for watching. Thank you for all of your chats and super chats as well. Let me just check I've not missed any before I go. I don't think I have. But I know a lot of people are shocked at our wage structure. That's why we've got to sort it out. Once Casemiro and Rashford go, which I think they will soon, you have the captain on 300 grand a week, and then you've just got to sort out them ones below that, where it's Mason Mount, Luke Shaw, you know, injury-prone players that aren't living up to the wage that we're giving them. As much as Luke Shaw, by the way, if he's consistently fit and playing, he's worth 190 grand a week for how good he is as a left back. I think he's best left back in the world is a strong. I think he's one of the best left backs in Europe when he's fit, but he's never fit. So you can't be paying him 190 grand a week. Mason Mount, 250 grand a week is way too much. So that's what then Ineos have to sort out after that. Anthony as well, 200 grand a week is not. It doesn't reflect his value to the team currently. That's where you have to go from after you address the top earners. And when we started to, Jadon Sancho was one of them. De Gea was obviously one of them. That went a long time ago. That was before Ineos came in. But the wage structure does need to be addressed. But look, everyone, thank you very much for... Vinny says I've missed his super chat. Hold on a second. I need to wrap up, but I don't want to miss anybody's super chats. Oh, I've missed a couple super chats. Let me get them up. I was on the wrong setting. So Methane Man, okay, we've got Methane Man saying, why do Spurs a favour remember Bale and Lane? Yeah, I mean, exactly. Like I said, I'd rather move Marcus Rashford on to abroad. But if they're the ones that are offering the best package financially, Manchester United might consider it. Vinny Red One says, how much do you think Rasmus goes for in the market? I don't know, you know. How much do you think Rasmus goes for in the current market? He's still young. He's got potential. He was never worth 72 million. Maybe around 30 mil. 30 million, is that fair? Patrick Lynch says January deals could be similar to the first January under Erik ten Hag. Yeah, was that the Weghorst and the Sabitzer loans. To be fair, they did a job for us till the end of the season. I mean, it wasn't great, but they did a job, didn't they? Methane Man also says Glazer's still in charge. Deadwood stays. Stars sold. I hope not. I really, really hope not. I hope that, you know, Casemiro to Saudi, Marcus Rashford loan, maybe obligation to buy, is the start of shifting some players out that aren't part of the project, and then we get onto the Mason Mounts, the Antonys, the players that aren't our absolute top earners but aren't contributing what we need either for the wage that they're getting paid, and we start to rebuild this squad and give Ruben Amorim what he needs. Look, everyone, thank you for watching. Hit a like on the video if you haven't already. It's great to be back, and stay tuned. Any breaking news, we will be bringing it to you. Mark will be back for the evening show, but for now, I'll see you on the next one.